friends, this is Christopher davis-shannon. Today I'm going to show you a little right hand technique that you can use to embellish some old swing tunes. We've done things such as the Hawaiian fan strum before, or the claw or rasgueado strokes, which rely on downstrokes with multiple fingers. But what we're going to study today is what we call the rake, and this is sort of the inverse of that. It is multiple upstrokes instead of downstrokes. So let's look at how this goes. So the first thing we need to do is slow this down, because rhythmically what's really happening when we do this is a 16th note triplet, so it flies by like that. So we want to make sure that we bring the tempo down to a very accessible speed so we can work out the technique that we need to do. Much like the rasgueado and fan strums that we have done previously, these incorporate the finger flexor muscles here. It's not just a strumming motion, but it's actual physical movement with your fingers, which if you haven't done techniques such as this can feel really clumsy at first. So the first thing we need to do is look at the technique and then how we can build up the speed here. So in this technique, the rake, we're going to use 3 separate upstrokes. We're going to do our ring finger, middle finger, and then first finger. Now for your hand position, I personally find it nice to just rest my thumb on the neck here as I do this stroke. You don't have to, and I don't always do it, but it can give you a nice reference point. The thing you want to make sure of is that you're not digging the thumb into the side, because we need to keep a loose wrist and get back to strumming when we need to, as this is just going to fly by very quickly, but it can just help give a little bit of stability just to rest your thumb right here and then curl up the fingers. So we're going to do this by first coming up with the ring finger, just like you're closing a fist, and the middle finger, and the first finger. We could practice this actually as a 4-stroke pattern, because ultimately this is going to precede the downbeat, and we're going to set ourselves up to play a downstroke. So we should actually incorporate that final downbeat into the stroke itself. So it's going to be ring finger up, middle finger up, first finger up, and then first finger down. And let's speed that up a little bit and hear what it sounds like. So we can barely hear the rhythm itself. That's why we don't need to concern ourselves with it, but we need to focus on getting this hand motion very fluid and relaxed. So what I want you to do with me is we're actually going to play just 4 beats on a C major chord. We're going to loop this for a moment, and it's going to be not rhythmically what we need to do in the song, but we're going to make all of the motions that we need to do with this technique. So it's going to be ring finger, middle, first, down, and again, and just join in with me. And you can hear that I'm not focusing on hitting all 4 strings on these upstrokes. As I said, it's an embellishment. It's just a little side note to the song. We don't need to go very light. If you're just catching the top 2 strings or so, that's okay. And remember to keep this regular loose wrist position, even if the thumb is here. And that's going to put your fingers at a little bit of an angle. You're not coming up like this, which would be really strong. We're just gracing over the strings and then down. So let's take up the tempo, do the same thing again, just this kind of 4-stroke roll that we're doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now let's put it in the rhythmic context that we actually need it. So as I said, this will be a triplet, but we're going to make it an 8th note triplet first before we make this a 16th note triplet or double the speed, because we want this to be rhythmically correct, but we don't actually want to be thinking about the triplet while we're doing this. It's just too fast. So we're going to play now triplet 2, triplet 4 with upstrokes for our triplet. So it'll be triplet 2, triplet 4. And again, just on your C major chord, we always want to take left hand movement out of the equation when we're addressing right hand technique. So let's listen how this sounds with just a little bit of the rhythm in here. It's going to sound like this: 2, 3, 4. Let's try just that much together. We'll bring the tempo down. 1, 2, 3, triplet, 4, triplet. Good, so you want to practice this nice and slowly. This hand motion needs to be like second nature. And I want to show you just one other way that you can do this. You can also practice this as a 6-stroke roll and really just book together a rasgueado stroke or a Hawaiian fan strum along with this. So you can practice this as a 6-stroke roll as up with the ring finger, up with the middle finger, up with the first finger, and then down in the same order. And that's going to give us the entire motion that we need for 2 different strokes. You can practice them at once and not even worry about the strums. What you're worried about when you're doing this 6-stroke roll is really just focusing on this finger movement with the flexor muscles here as opposed to our usual strumming, because this is a new thing that we need to get used to. And we need to be able to tell our fingers to do the right motion when we're doing this in a tune. So now let's look at how we can kind of apply this to a simple chord progression and how it fits in that context. So we're going to keep the left hand nice and simple. Let's start out with just C to G7. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 beats on each chord. And we're going to do our down and up swung strum, a shuffle strum. And I'll link to a tutorial on that in case you're unfamiliar with it, but it's just basically this. I think we can all do that. Now, this rake is going to be replacing our up strum. And now if we think about our swung rhythm for a second, we know that the first of those eighth notes is longer, the second is shorter. So this is replacing the shorter of the eighth notes with a 16th note triplet. So hence this flies by really fast. That's why we don't actually really want to worry about the rhythm unless we're practicing it slowly. Until it can just flow out naturally, we don't want to try to apply this to a song. So if we're doing the stroke, what we'll do is we'll put this on each chord change, each time that we go to the G7th or back to the C. So on C, we'll have down, up, down, and then our stroke as we change to G7. But let's try this first just on C. And we're going to put it on the and of 2 and the and of 4, exactly where it will be in this progression. So I'm going to play this for you nice and slow first so you can hear what it sounds like. So it's... Let's try that together, nice and slow, and it's okay if this feels awkward at first, but you want to get the sound you're listening for in your ear, even while you're just getting used to this new technique. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, now let's add in our G7. So we're going to complicate this with a chord change now. So 2 beats on C, 2 beats on G7, then we can just loop back and forth. So we'll go dominant to tonic all day long. So it's going to sound a little bit something like this. And you'll note that this is harder to do while you're changing a chord. So we're really focused on just like the rhythmic sound of it, not necessarily hitting all of the notes in the chord. That's okay. So it's going to sound like this. Try that together. Nice and slow, just 2 beats on each chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. So it's a very simplistic technique when we break it down, but it's not easy at all. We need to take the time very slowly to practice these new motions with our hands until they become natural. And then we can start applying it to chords and rhythm. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I'll see y'all next week.